so much fun, and not at silly speeds either. It's fun as a road car because it doesn't have too much power.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to something a little bit different. I know only a couple of weeks ago I had a Mercedes-Benz AMG A45S on the channel, and today we have a Renault Mégane Trophy R. I want to say a big thanks to Renault UK for sending me this car. Let's hope it's the start of a new relationship. It's really nice to get alternative cars on the channel, especially cars like this mighty Trophy R. I remember seeing this, I think it was in Evo magazine about a year ago, and reading all about it. The one they had was a £70,000 version, and I did think at the time that's a little bit crazy for what is effectively a Renault Mégane. But there's a lot of buts. This is a very, very special car. This particular one is about £60,000 on the road. And that's because it has the £9,000 Brembo ceramic brake option, which are just the front brakes have been changed. And they are probably one of the biggest brake sets I've ever seen on any car, and they're carbon ceramics. It's just crazy. The base price for this particular Trophy R is £51,000, and again, that still sounds like a lot of money for something this size and a Renault badge on it. And that's not me being a snob. If it was a BMW or a Mercedes or an Audi for 50 grand, you'd still be saying that's a lot of cash. So why is it so expensive? Well, it has a 2-litre turbocharged 4-cylinder engine under the carbon bonnet, produces 300 horsepower and about 400 newton meters of torque. So nothing too crazy in this day and age of hot hatches, especially when that Mercedes I had the other week was 500 horsepower. That's mated to a 6-speed manual gearbox. Again, old school, nothing particularly different there. It's a front-wheel drive car. It has a limited slip diff, which is all great. The main thing and the main reason that this car is so expensive really is down to the weight. This weighs 1,300 kilos. My M2 that is just out of shot over there is more than 300 kilos heavier than this car. That's 3 of me. And they're effectively a very similar sort of size car. So how have they gone about saving the weight? Well, I'm going to get my phone out and actually read out some stats, because I've only got this car for 2 days. So I can't memorize everything. Let's just go through some bits and pieces on my phone. Aside from the amazing weight saving in this car, there's some incredible bits underneath the skin. The Öhlins fully adjustable suspension setup that has lightweight springs. Öhlins, they make suspension for MotoGP bikes. They are the cream of the cream. I dread to think what that suspension setup would cost on its own. The throaty Akrapovic titanium exhaust system. The carbon fibre bonnet. The carbon fibre diffuser, which is actually working as part of the aero package. The underneath of the car is completely designed to reduce drag and produce some downforce. This car is a real serious machine. It's not just a Mégane with a sticker kit down the side of it. It also has some very serious looking Bridgestone S007 tyres. They look like Trofeo R's to me, so probably not the best in wet weather, but the next couple of days are meant to be nice and dry. So I'm really looking forward to putting some heat through them. And I think that's when this car will really come alive. Super lightweight wheels. We've already talked about the upgraded brake kit on this, probably a little bit overkill. Once you get inside the car, the first thing you notice is there are no rear seats. Obviously a weight saving measure once again. There is a big red strut brace that has a mesh connected to it to stop stuff from the boot flying forward basically. Strange thing is there are still rear doors that do open, but the rear windows are a lighter weight glass and they no longer have a motor in them or any switchgear because they don't need to operate because nobody's going to be sitting in the back. So it's a bit of a dead space back there that you could use to lug around some stuff for the house if you needed to. Jump forward to the front seats and you've got some lovely lightweight Say-belt bucket seats. They actually save around 20 kilos alone and they look the business. They certainly feel very supportive when I'm sitting in this stationary car. You've got an Alcantara trim wheel, which is nice and thin, feels great. And the pedal box feels really good as well. I think perfect for heel and toe, which obviously this car is all about with its manual 6-speed gearbox. The rest of the trim in there is all very normal Renault Mégane. In fact, I haven't been in a Mégane for a long time now, and it's nothing to write home about, but you're not buying this car for fit and finish, you're buying it as a driving tool. The light is fading. I'm going to go inside and grab some dinner, and I'll join you guys bright and early tomorrow on one of my favourite roads.
Okay, you join me the next day. Unfortunately, it's been raining most of the day. I've actually waited till about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The tarmac's just starting to dry a little bit. The reason I've waited is because this car is on some Bridgestone, I'd call them semi-slicks, and earlier on they were just dangerous really on the road, to be fair, and I certainly couldn't push the car anywhere near what I can do now. Before we actually start this driving bit of the video, I would just like to urge you guys to head over to my brand controlandshift.com. I'll put a link in the description below where you can pick up a t-shirt like the one I'm wearing at the moment, Toy Racer. I think that goes pretty well with this particular car. And if you just wanted to donate a little bit of money to the channel, you'll also find my PayPal address in the description. Every single pound or euro or dollar, wherever you're from, helps towards the channel. It really does, especially when I've got a car like this for a couple of days. I'm really pushed and up against it in time in terms of filming and all the rest of it, so really appreciate that. I've always loved a hot Renault, as far back as I can remember. I'm talking when I was a real little kid, back in the early 80s, the Renault 5 Turbo, a car that's probably best remembered for Ali G. Then you went into the 90s and you had all of the lovely hot Clios. My favourite of those is probably the Clio Williams, which is probably what, circa 93. And you got to the early 2000s and you got the hot Méganes, and that kind of peaked when you got to 2008 when the Mégane R26R came out. What a car, and definitely the predecessor to this particular car. It was 230 odd horsepower, again a 2 litre turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, but super lightweight, 1230 kilos I believe. Obviously manual 6-speed, cage, harness option, really similar to this car. And at the time, that retailed at just under £25,000 I believe, and people said that was way too much money for a Mégane 11-12 years ago. Well, fast forward and we got this absolute weapon, and the base price for this, as we know, is £50,000, so it's more than doubled in just over 10 years. Is it worth it? I've only had this car a couple of days and only really driven it properly today. At the time I've had it, it's just been amazing. It really has. I've not wanted to put the keys down for too long. I've had to do all of the laborious drive-bys and detail shots, but every time I get back in the driver's seat, I'm just loving it. I've got a big grin on my face. Didn't actually sleep too much last night because I was so excited about this car, and that very rarely happens. As much as I love cars and get excited about driving things like the M2 CS, I wasn't as excited about the CS as I was with this, because I kind of knew what I was going to expect, whereas this, I just had no idea really. It's just such a riot. At the end of this video, I'm going to go through the good and bad points of this particular car. What we're going to focus on now though is just what it feels like to drive, because that's what this car's all about. I wish I could take it on track. It needs to be on track, but that's not to say it's a bad road car. It was this morning when the conditions were wet, but that's mostly down to the fact that these tyres really don't have much grip in slippery surfaces. But you could whack a set of PS4S's on this for the winter months and it would be amazing, I'm sure. The ride, a lot of people warn me about the ride. Now, I don't think it's that bad, I really don't. It's certainly no more harsh than, say, my M2 competition. And I'm sitting on very firm bucket seats. The Öhlins adjustable suspension is just unreal. That ride that I was just talking about that's not too bad, once you really start pushing, it just seems to absorb and take in every single bump and ripple on the road, which is key for good handling, really is. It's just so precise, this car. And listen to the overrun. It's so much better now that it's drying up out there. What a little car. Driving position is not ideal, to be fair. It's nowhere near as bad as something like a Focus RS with bucket seats in it, but I just don't quite feel comfortable. My legs are cramped if I get the wheel in the right position. In other words, I have to bring the seat quite far forward to get the wheel position right, but then my legs are quite cramped in the footwell. But as we all know, I'm fairly taller than your average driver, so that's probably what it is. Might only have 300 horsepower and 400 newton meters of torque. In today's age, that's really not much, but because it doesn't weigh much at 1300 kilos, it actually almost has the same power to weight figure as my M2 competition, so it has plenty of pace. Definitely enough anyway for this sort of car, really does. It's not about straight line performance in this, it's about handling and basically dynamic driving. It's just brilliant. And it's a real characterful little engine. It sounds great, really good exhaust note through that titanium Akrapovic, as you'd expect, I guess. God knows what that's worth, you bought it alone. Oh, it's just a fantastic little car, it really is. Oh, and the brakes, well, they're unbelievable. Do you need this £9,000 carbon ceramic brake option? Probably not, to be fair. I can't imagine the steel ones are that bad when you're only trying to slow down this much weight. I can feel the temperature coming up in the front tyres because I'm getting less torque steer, I'm getting more traction out of corners. Oh, it's amazing, it really is. Pedals are really well placed as well, so really good for a bit of heel and toe. Is this particular car worth £60,000? Well, I think if you've got 60 grand to throw at a fun car that can be used regularly on track and taken down to the Alps annually, then this is the car to have. It's just brilliant, it really does everything. And I think this would run rings around many cars out on a track. including my M2 competition. It just feels so much lighter. The front end feels so much better, and I would love to see what sort of lap times this does in comparison to my M2 comp. Yeah, in a straight line my M2 might be a slightly faster car, but everywhere else this thing's just going to be brilliant, and it's going to be very light on its feet, so it's going to be light on tyres, light on brakes, and just not overheat itself on a track day, which is the biggest problem with cars like mine and a lot of people's cars on track. This thing, I reckon you could run it all day long and only have to stop for lunch and fuel. I think it has a quoted 0 to 62 time of 5.2 seconds, top speed of around 165 miles an hour, so it's very fast, and that's a quick accelerating car for something that is a front wheel drive car, because it's really difficult to get that traction off the line. Once it's going, this thing is quick. Let's talk about its bad points, because there are quite a few bad points. First one being the interior. I mean, it's pretty average in here, to be fair. I can't believe that Renault haven't moved the interior game on much since I was last in a Mégane, which was probably 10 years ago. The switchgear, the plastics and stuff aren't particularly nice. The infotainment system's pretty bad. The dashboard is quite frustrating. As you go through the modes, there's race and sports and comfort and all the rest of it. It changes, but it changes unnecessarily. When it's in sports, it's great. It's a nice clear rev counter with a speedo in the middle. When you go into race, which turns all the traction control off and stuff, you get these bars at the top that show you your revs, but they're not very clear. And I'd rather just have a traditional analog looking dial in the middle. So yeah, really not a fan of any of the tech in here, especially the dashboard layout. I think, yeah, they've tried to make it modern, and in my opinion it's just failed. I wish manufacturers would just stick to analog looking digital dials. Even BMW have gone a little bit crazy lately with their dials, you know, squaring them off and turning them sideways, and it's just like, there was nothing wrong with a traditional analog dial, so make it digital by all means, but keep it nice and round. Driving position, as we talked about, it's not ideal. I'm sure if I was 5'10", 5'11", it would feel much better, but it's not bad. And in the 24 hours I've been driving it, it's certainly started to feel better, and I've kind of acclimatized to it. It's hard to talk about bad things with this car when I'm having so much fun in it. Other things are the gearbox. The ratios are actually really good. 6th gear is great for the motorway. 2nd, 3rd, 4th really good for A and B roads like this. But it's just a bit notchy. The gear lever itself, again, is quite cheap and nasty and big, a bit phallic looking. And for a car that's 60 grand, it just doesn't feel great. I wish they'd spent an extra £5 trying to make that feel a little bit nicer and more expensive to touch. Saying that, the steering wheel is actually pretty nice. The actual rim width is good, which, as you know, is very important to me. It's all about the rim width. Last couple of negatives are the carbon ceramic brakes. I find them too powerful and too bitey in everyday sort of use. So when you're pootling along in traffic, they're just so bitey. They really are so bitey. Yes, you would probably get used to that, but they're just too aggressive for your normal daily use. But I'm sure they'll come alive on track. I haven't tried the steel option, but I'm guessing that they're every bit as good for 99% of your average driving. And the final negative, I guess, is the price. Although I can see where the money's gone, and there really is nothing else quite like this car on the market for this sort of cash, I just couldn't personally justify spending £60,000 on a 300 horsepower Mégane. I think if I won the lottery, I'd probably have one of these, but if I could afford one, i.e. if I was quite a wealthy person, I wouldn't buy one. It would have to be a lottery winning car, and it would be something that would get used mostly on track, and I'd take it down to the Alps maybe once or twice a year for a good rag. Let's finish on positives with this car. How it makes you feel in general, how it drives, how alive it is, the feel through the wheel. It's just so much fun, and not at silly speeds either. It's fun as a road car because it doesn't have too much power, so you're not doing absolutely ludicrous speeds in seconds, but it's just fast enough. And as I said earlier on, I'd absolutely love to take this on a track day. Most of that's because it doesn't weigh much, 1,300 kilos, that's what it is, it's all key. Weight is where it's at, or lack of weight. It just injects so much fun into a car. I absolutely love it. Oh look, the road is nice and dry now. The front end's coming alive. What a brilliant little car. Sound, it's another positive. We touched upon it earlier on. Makes such a good sound. I can't imagine this has got any OPF or particulate filters in it, because the amount of pops you get out that exhaust are just mega. Positive I have to talk about is the fact that it's such a rare car. They're only making 500 of these. This is actually number 26 500, which is ironic because of the R26R. I don't know if that's on purpose from Renault UK, but I guess its rarity means it might hold its value like the R26R has. You know, that's still worth 25 grand today, so these might be worth 50 grand, 60 grand in 10 years time. I can't imagine they will be worth that much, but they're not going to fall off a cliff tonight, that's for sure. It's just brilliant. It's so bright out there I can hardly see now. I had the opposite problem earlier on. What a car. Guys, thanks a lot for watching. Renault UK, thanks a lot for lending me a car. This has just been an absolute riot. Can I have it for a bit longer than 48 hours next time, please? And can I take it out on track? Because it really feels like a caged animal at times. And I think it would really come alive on a track, on a dry track. So maybe early next year. The way it turns in is just unbelievable. Unbelievable. Guys, thanks for watching. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Remember to go and give us a follow on Instagram and Twitter if you don't already. And I'll see you at the next video. Cheers.